and we return to G.G. Sweet's Veterans Memorial for today's Memorial Day service.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, veterans and patriots. I am Captain Joe DeGuise, USMC retired. I was a combat veteran of the Vietnam War. Memorial Day has always had deep meaning for me since childhood. I relished in the stories told me by my father, Joseph, who was a World War I veteran of the Merchant Marine, especially on Memorial Decoration Day. My mother and father chose to be married on that day in Minnesota, and although it was many years ago, the ceremonies were about the same. The only thing different was the attendance. Every year in our small town, we had a parade down Main Street ending at the cemetery. The fire department, World War I, and 2 veterans. It was before the Korean War, but there were still some pretty spry World War I veterans in attendance. The Decoration Day that I mentioned in 1924, the Grand Marshal was Albert Wilson, who was a Civil War veteran. And he appeared in his Grand Army of the Republic uniform, and he stood straight and tall, and he had a lot to say to the children and the people in attendance. I met with him personally in 1953. It was 3 years before he died. He was born in 1850, and he was at Gettysburg. He was a drummer boy, just 13 years old. But he served in the Minnesota Infantry for the whole war, coming home alive and well in 1866. The children, mostly the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, they followed the marching soldiers to the cemetery, and they put small American flags and flowers on the graves. There were many in attendance that actually cried on the graves. They were still survivors. Not many World War I veterans or survivors around anymore. Officially, Decoration Day began with the proclamation by General John Logan in 1868. Although many citizens decorated the graves of many Revolutionary War soldiers as early as 1777. So Decoration Day has been with our republic since its birth. The first Decoration Day was observed May 30th, 1868, and General James Garfield was the Grand Marshal of that in Arlington. There were 5,000 patriots at that ceremony that decorated the graves of over 20,000 Union and Confederate dead. And what a lot of people don't know is that Confederates were not considered veterans until 1924. So every Confederate soldier is the same as any other soldier as far as their veteran status since that date. In later years, I had the privilege to know and work with many veterans of past wars. Harry Mix comes to mind. He was wounded at San Juan Hill, also in the Minnesota Infantry. He swore that Teddy's horses did not come ashore until the battle was over. The books don't say that, but he said it, and he swore by it. He was wounded severely in the leg and actually had a cane, like a skate on his left leg, which is about 6-8 inches shorter than his other leg. And he used his Purple Heart as a watch fob, and it was worn off so you could hardly tell it was George Washington anymore. I also worked for a World War I veteran, Homer Smith, also from Excelsior, Minnesota. He served aboard a United States Navy battleship in World War I. He was in the Black Gang. Does anybody know what the Black Gang was? Well, it was the guys down below that shoveled coal into the boilers. That's what they were in those days. That was before distillate fuels. And he had many stories to tell. He also served on the railroad on troop trains in World War II. And he had a lot to say about veterans, most of it good. My first cousin, Lester Schreiner from Excelsior, he was a World War II veteran. He won the Silver Star and Purple Heart in Italy. He came back very troubled. He was German ancestry, and he spoke German fluently. But the war affected him in a terrible way. In 1956, he went to the basement of his house, his mother's house, and hung himself. We still have 22 veterans a day doing away with themselves, giving up. And I would like to challenge every one of us here to remember that we don't leave our brothers and sisters behind. There's many, many troubled veterans from all wars still that need support. They need their buddies to check in on them periodically because it's a shame that we lose 22 a day. These patriots are war casualties as sure as if they had perished at Gettysburg or Valley Forge, the Chosin Reservoir, Waste City, the Marne, or in Afghanistan. They just didn't come back from those places the way they went there. And they need our help. The Paralyzed Veterans of America, in closing, I'd like to read a short poem. They answered their country's call to arms. Into battle did they go. Where their final destination was, no one will ever know. May their final resting place under some unknown sod be forever hallowed, for it is known only to God. Thank you very much.